Are you thinking of moving to northern Arizona, but you're really not sure where to begin? Or perhaps you like the idea of Arizona, but you don't really know enough about it, and you're not sure if the entire state is made up of desert and cacti and 120-degree summers? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you where you can find information about moving to Arizona, and I'm going to give you 6 easy steps to make your transition to moving to northern Arizona as smooth as possible. My name is Dawn Dickinson, and I am a realtor in northern Arizona. I sell property in Sedona, Verde Valley, Flagstaff, Prescott Valley, sometimes in Phoenix, so I do know a little bit about the state. If you ever have a question about buying or selling a home in Arizona, reach out to me. My contact information is always in the description below. So let's begin. I'm going to give you the first step, which is, of course, to research northern Arizona and to gather the information that will help you determine which part of the state might be the best for you. And I'm going to give you some resources that I definitely recommend you check out. First of all, YouTube, there are a lot of videos about the northern Arizona town. In fact, my entire channel, this channel, Living in Northern Arizona, I do a lot of videos every single week about the different towns, about moving to Arizona, about real estate in Arizona. And if you just go into my channel, you can get a lot of these videos, pros and cons of living in Sedona, or living in Flagstaff, and that can give you some information on the towns. But there are other channels and lots of resources about the different towns, and there are some other sources, in fact sources that I use to create a lot of the videos, that will give you information on like the weather, the cost of living, crime rate, things to do in the towns. And I definitely recommend you view those videos and decide which town you might like. There are also websites, of course, going to Google Earth. You can actually explore some of the topography of the area. You could look at some of the neighborhoods. There are 2 websites I use quite often. One is called bestplaces.net. That gives me a lot of information about the population, the climate, the elevation, that type of stuff. And there's another one, niche.com, that will give information on the community, the schools, and that kind of data, which is actually very helpful if you have children. But those resources I definitely recommend you explore and decide, which area do you like? Do you like Flagstaff? Well, maybe Flagstaff is too cold for you. Maybe someplace like Cottonwood or Verde Valley would be better. Or maybe you like Prescott because it's a little bit in between, where you have a higher elevation but not quite so high. So again, check out the resources that you can find on the internet and determine which of the cities or general areas you think might be the best fit for you and for your family. Okay, number 2 suggestion. If you find an area that you like say you like Verde Valley, which would be like Cottonwood, Cornville, Clarkdale, Rimrock, or Sedona, find an agent or an expert in that area and reach out. Now, I'm going to put my contact information below, where you could reach out to me through text, email, phone call, and possibly set up a Zoom call or just a phone call, maybe a 30-minute phone call, where you could just ask questions about, what are home prices like? What do I need to do to buy a home? And anything like that. Possibly schedule a trip. Possibly I could set you up on an email drip that will show you houses, so that if you're not ready maybe for 6 months or a year, you've been getting emails maybe once a week that will show you homes for sale in the different neighborhoods, and you can get an idea of, oh, this is what I could buy for my budget. So that will make you more prepared once you are ready to start making a move. Okay, number 3 is something that's only been in place as of August 17th, 2024, but now there are new rules that are a result of the lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors, thanks to lawyers that won't let any of us realtors show you properties without you signing some forms. Now, this is a form that was optional in some states. I actually rarely made my clients sign these forms to show properties, but now we have to. And if I would show you a home without having you sign one of these 2 forms I'm going to tell you about, I could get fined a lot of money. My broker could get get fined a lot of money. And of course, if my broker gets fined, he's going to sever my relationship. So you may have a realtor ask you to sign this paperwork and you're thinking that they're trying to pull something over you, but it's the law now. So it's the law. If I don't, I could get fined, broker fined. So you are going to have to sign one of two forms. Now, most agents are going to tell you that you need to sign this buyer broker employment agreement, and that will specify that you have to work, if you're looking in a certain area, with that agent exclusively for a certain amount of time. And it also sets out the terms of the employment, how much we expected to get paid, how we get paid, and that is what they will most likely ask you to sign. Now, I can certainly have you sign that one, but there is another form that I have been using that I've had no problem with, and it's less intrusive. It's the buyer broker agreement to show property, and you would need to sign one of these two forms to go into any houses. So the buyer broker agreement to show property is a little less intrusive. It doesn't bind you to work only with me. Because what I don't like is I don't like to have people sign a form saying they're going to work only with me and they just made me a half hour ago. You know, I don't want to have you spend the day with me and you decide I don't really like her, but now you're obligated to. So I use this buyer broker agreement to show property where I can have you sign it for, you know, a weekend, a week, a month, 6 months, and that will allow me to show you properties, and you're really only bound to me for the properties I've shown you on that visit. And if tomorrow you want to work with somebody else, of course, now realize the other person may have you sign the more intrusive form binding you to them, but with the buyer broker agreement to show property, it will spell out how much commission I expect to get paid, and I'm going to give you a little more detail on that as well. So with either of these forms, again, this is all a result of the lawsuit, or I'm going to say that I get paid, say, 3%. Now, that doesn't mean that any deal I make that you personally have to pay me the 3%. I am going to ask the seller to pay me the 3%. Now, here's another lovely result of the lawsuit is I can't just go to the MLS and see if the sellers are willing to pay me 3%, 2.5%, 4%. I can't see that. So I would just have you sign the amount that says I get paid 3%, and then if the seller comes back and says, no, I'm not going to pay you 3%, I'm only going to pay you 2.5%, I can say, okay. If they come back most of the time and say 2.5%, I'll say, okay, sure. But if I put 2% or 2.5% on that form and the seller comes back and says, I'll pay you 3%, I'm no longer legally allowed to collect that full 3%. So that's why I'm going to say 3%, but I can negotiate down. I cannot negotiate up. So again, please don't get in an argument with me about what people in this area are getting paid, because again, that is what triggered the lawsuit. That is where they were saying everybody gets paid a blah 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 amount, and then they sued us all for price fixing. So again, I'm going to say the highest. Now on land, it's going to be higher. Land is super hard to sell. Sometimes you're selling a lot for a very low amount, and I could easily lose money on a lot that's very cheap if it's just 3%. Okay, so number 4 suggestion, it's good before you even go out looking for houses, or maybe even set up your email drip where I'm sending you properties from the local MLS that you are interested in looking at, that you consult with a loan officer, a mortgage broker, or somebody to secure financing. Now again, if it's a cash deal, you don't need to do that, although I do need to know and have you be able to at some point, if you're going to make an offer, show me your bank account statements, because that will need to be submitted with the offer if you're doing cash. But most of the time people are getting a loan, so I recommend one of my local loan officers that I work with, or any loan officers who are licensed in the state that you're looking to buy and are primarily doing loans in that state. But getting that pre-qualification form before you're going out and looking at properties, that is step number 4. Okay, number 5 is to schedule a trip to whatever area in Northern Arizona you would like to move to. Now, if you're coming from Phoenix or Tucson, this could be pretty easy for you, but if you're flying from out of state, definitely want to give it some advance notice. In fact, actually, if you are asking to meet me while you're here, I definitely need at least 2 weeks notice because my calendar fills up very fast, and nothing gets me more irritated when somebody calls me and says, hey, I'm in Sedona, can I meet with you? And I'm like, what, you just realized this yesterday? I do get filled up very fast, as do many of the agents that get a lot of business. Schedule a trip to Arizona, to northern Arizona, and there are a couple of things you could do on your trip. You could just drive around the neighborhoods, the attractions, kind of get a feel for it on your own. In fact, sometimes I can give you a list of places I would recommend you driving by on the same trip if you would like. I could meet you, or again, whatever agent you decide to work with could meet you for coffee, or could meet you at an office where we could sit down for a half hour, 45 minutes, and you could just shoot questions at me and pick my brain to see if you think this is a good area for you and what you should do next. Now, again, if you are more advanced and more sure this is a place I'm going to want to work, or this is the place I'm going to want to move to, then again, it would be a great time to look at some homes. So you might want to spend or schedule like a half a day or a full day with your agent looking at homes and showing property. But do remember that you're going to have to sign either the buyer broker employment agreement or the buyer broker agreement to show property in order to get into those homes, or you are risking the career and the financial stability of that agent. You are setting them up to get fined, and the fines can be great. So just remember, you are going to have to do that. So maybe on your first trip, you just want to drive around in the neighborhood and look at the attractions, kind of look at the homes and see, okay, this house is going to be $500,000. Do I think that it warrants the price? And do I think I can afford that? And a lot of people coming from like some of the Midwestern towns are like shocked, like they see $500,000 and it's, you know, nice but kind of average size homes. And that in itself, without you going into the home, makes you think, okay, I'm just going to stick to Oklahoma or Arkansas because you get much more for your money. Now, I'm not telling you that Arizona is cheap, and northern Arizona is not cheap either. And again, in some of my videos in this channel, you could go back and see market updates or cost of living in certain towns, and that will kind of tell you the price point, so you may be able to avoid the sticker shock before you even do a trip to Arizona. So my final suggestion is to just keep the lines of communication open. And the reason I'm saying that is a lot of us are very busy. I know I'm super busy, and a lot of times I'll have conversations with you. I might set up an email search, and then we might not talk for a while. I'm not the type of agent that will call and nag you every single week. Oh, how you doing? Are you ready to look at houses? That's just, first of all, not my personality type, and I don't really think that's the best use of my time, because typically when I've met with people and we have talked, or we've met for coffee or looked at homes, when they're ready, they will call me. But remember to keep that line of communication open. If I'm sending you houses and say you think I suddenly don't like Chino Valley and you want me to drop that, just either reply to the email or text me and say, hey, could you just change the search this way? Keep the lines of communication open. And then again, if you're thinking, hey, you know, maybe in January I'm going to come to Arizona for 2 weeks, can you meet with me? Let me know as soon as you have that, because I can put that in my calendar, and then you won't be calling me and say I'm going to be here in 3 days, and I'm going to say, sorry, I've got 4 people that have asked for appointments that day. So keeping the lines of communication open, doing your research, remember to getting pre-qualified, all of those things are going to make your move to northern Arizona as easy as possible. So that's it. Those are my steps to make your transition to northern Arizona much easier. My name is Dawn Dickinson. I am a real estate agent. I sell primarily in Sedona and Verde Valley, which would be Cottonwood, Camp Verde, Clarkdale, Cornville, and Brimrock, Jerome. But I also sell sometimes in Flagstaff area and Prescott Valley. So again, if you want to talk to me about buying or selling a home in any of these areas, please reach out to me. My contact information is always in the description below, and every single week I put out a video about moving to the northern Arizona towns, or what it's like to live in the northern Arizona towns. So if you like this kind of information, please do me a favor and hit the thumbs up, and also consider subscribing to the channel, because that will keep you informed on all the new videos. And I hope to see you back here on the channel again next week.